Here's your news rush for July 28, 2026. 6 stories. Let's go. France just evacuated 4,000 people from its Atlantic coast. Authorities ordered the evacuation of tourist sites Tuesday as returning heat threatened firefighters' fragile hold on a vast wildfire west of Bordeaux. That word fragile is the whole story. Crews had this fire nearly under control, but a new heat wave is arriving this week, topping 95 degrees in southwest France and 100 in Spain. That means the problem is not the fire they are fighting today. It is that Europe keeps not giving them a cool spell long enough to finish the job. The bombing has stopped, for now. President Trump says there is a good chance the new round of diplomacy with Iran could yield a breakthrough, but he warned he would quickly resume airstrikes if it does not. The U.S. military has paused its strikes after nearly 2 weeks of intensifying bombing. Here is why that pause matters more than the quote. Yesterday the two sides were only exchanging messages. Today the guns are actually quiet, which is the first material change in this conflict rather than a signal about one. But a pause is not an agreement, and the threat attached to it is explicit. At least 30 people have been killed in an attack on a village in northwestern Nigeria. Residents say armed men stormed the Dogon Rana area of Kaduna State early Monday, opened fire indiscriminately and set houses ablaze. 8 of the dead were children, and 4 more people were wounded. No group has claimed responsibility. That last detail is not a small one. When no group claims an attack, there is no stated demand and no obvious party to negotiate with, which is exactly what makes this kind of violence so difficult for Nigerian authorities to get ahead of. The world is at risk of an HIV resurgence, according to UNAIDS. The agency says international HIV funding fell 18% last year, from $8.8 billion to $7.3 billion, the lowest level in nearly 2 decades. UNAIDS reports that 1.2 million people caught HIV last year. Here is why the timing is what alarms them. New infections and AIDS-related deaths had just reached their lowest point in more than 30 years. That means the money is being withdrawn at the exact moment the numbers finally started working, and the agency says the sharpest prevention cuts landed in sub-Saharan Africa, which accounts for about half of new global infections. Here is one way to measure how long this war has run. Reports say Ukraine's President Zelenskyy met Britain's new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, in London on Monday. Officials say Burnham took office a week ago, and he is the 5th British Prime Minister Zelenskyy has dealt with since Russia's full-scale invasion began. The war has now outlasted 4 of them. But the detail that carries the real signal is the order of the diary. Zelenskyy is the first foreign leader Burnham has hosted since taking office, which is how a new government tells you what it intends to prioritize without issuing a policy statement. 2 wars, 2 leaders, 1 afternoon. Officials say President Trump is set to hold separate meetings with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Ukraine's President Zelenskyy at the White House today. But scheduling them on the same day is the part worth noticing. That means the meetings land in the middle of a pause in U.S. strikes on Iran, while Washington is trying to keep a diplomatic track alive, and a leader's calendar is usually a more honest signal of priorities than anything said at the podium. What comes out of these 2 rooms will tell us more than the announcements did. That's your news rush for today. Subscribe so you never miss a day.